I'm the disposable husband in a romance novel, the guy the heroine marries to make the hero jealous enough to come back and stake his claim. The hero throws a check at me, the heroine slides a debit card my way, and I'm supposed to vanish. I took the money, signed the divorce papers, booked the first flight to an island paradise, and then I woke up. Blinking, I took in the opulent, sun-drenched penthouse. I let out a long breath as the butler's voice, smooth as aged whiskey, echoed beside me. Mr. Vance, the uni you requested has just arrived from Hokkaido. A jolt shot through me. This wasn't a dream. I'd been reborn, dropped right into the story as Leo Vance, the canon, fodder husband in a marriage of convenience. My wife, Catherine Zhang, was the very definition of a powerhouse CEO. My job, exist beautifully, spend her money, and stay out of the way. She didn't respect me, but she chose me because I was supposedly docile. A slow smile spread across my face. This was the golden ticket, and I wasn't about to waste it. I practically bounced out of bed. I had the 5-star caliber private chef whip up a seafood feast for breakfast. After polishing off a tower of oysters and crab legs, the butler, Alfred, cleared his throat. Will you be sending flowers to Miss Zhang at the office today, sir? The old Leo's daily fawning over Catherine, sending lavish gifts she'd toss in the trash without a second thought. I considered the alternative. Why not spend that money on myself? No, not today. Alfred's eyebrow twitched in surprise, but he bowed his head and retreated. I took the opportunity to explore my gilded cage. The penthouse had panoramic views of Central Park and my personal holy grail, a fully loaded gaming rig that looked like it belonged on a professional esports stage. My spirit soared. I spent the morning dominating in a first-person shooter, had a catered lunch, and then hit Fifth Avenue for the afternoon. I bought anything that caught my eye, finally experiencing the pure, unadulterated joy of having a sales associate clear out a boutique for a private shopping session. I didn't see Catherine until that evening. I was sprawled on a plush velvet sofa with a hydrating face mask on, watching Twitch streams on the wall-sized television. Catherine's entrance was announced by the click of her stilettos. The old Leo would have leaped up to take her briefcase and help her with her shoes. But that's what the staff was for, wasn't it? Leo, she said, her voice cool and measured. My MX alert says you spent over $1 million today. What did you buy? I peeled the mask off and looked at her, admiring the sharp, perfect lines of her face. I shrugged. A few things. Feeling the pinch. Not the money. Just be more discreet. It's not a good look while the company is in a sensitive quarter. Right. My conspicuous consumption could create bad press for her. Still, $1 million was pocket change to her. I nodded. Got it. Next time I'll have the brand send their collections here for me to choose from. I wanted to experience the full at-home service treatment. Catherine didn't reply, just disappeared into her home office to work. Atta girl, I thought. Work hard, make that money. The more you earn, the more satisfying it is for me to spend it. When we got married, Catherine had promised me 5% of the John Corporation stock. On paper, that made my net worth a cool $1 billion. Why would I ever cross her? All I had to do was wait for the hero to show up, take his buyout check, accept Catherine's settlement, and walk away with a double payday. It was the perfect plan. When would that hero finally get here? An idea sparked. I poured a glass of milk, went to her office, and cracked the door open. In that split second, I snapped a photo of her buried in paperwork and posted it to Twitter. Long night at the office for my brilliant wife. You got this, babe. I even tagged her official account. There was no way the hero would miss that. He followed her every move online, which made him follow me too. Any ripple in our domestic bliss would have him on high alert. Sure enough, later that night, Catherine left. I watched her town car disappear into the New York City night. She didn't come home. I couldn't stop grinning. A quick check of the hero's social media showed nothing, but around 2 a.m., Catherine posted a picture to her private Instagram story. 2 hands, fingers intertwined. The background was a sea of roses, a bottle of expensive red wine uncorked on the table. The composition had his clumsy, straightforward style written all over it. Come on, guys, I cheered internally. Hurry up and ask for that divorce. I was so excited I called the private chef back and had him prepare another lobster feast. As I sat there cracking open a claw, I savored the moment. The joys of being rich were truly beyond my wildest dreams. Alfred, the butler, watched me with a pained expression. He finally spoke. Sir, With all due respect. I raised an eyebrow. What is it, Alfred? The madam didn't come home last night, and you're still eating. Shouldn't you be buying her a gift, something to smooth things over? Alfred was clearly aware that a storm was brewing. I, on the other hand, couldn't care less. I smiled and patted his shoulder. Relax, Alfred. It wouldn't matter if I bought her the entire Tiffany Company flagship store. Her mind is already made up. Hearing this, Alfred's face fell. He looked at me with a mix of pity and despair. I just shrugged and went back to my lobster. Catherine finally swept in late the next morning, wearing a different outfit. A royal blue sheath dress clung to her frame, accentuating her impossibly long, pale legs. I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. The woman was the novel's heroine for a reason. She was a certified knockout. My gaze lingered, and she frowned. What are you looking at? Just admiring the view. You look great. The words were out before I could stop them. I coughed, remembering I had a role to play. My persona was the clingy, insecure husband. I deepened my voice. Where were you last night? Her eyes widened in surprise before narrowing into icy slits. That is not a question you are entitled to ask. Actually, it is. In case you forgot, we're still legally married. I shot back. And are you with him now? Do you have any respect for yourself, for me? Yes, keep pushing, I screamed internally. Tell me to get lost. Tell me it's over. Insult me. You're Catherine Zhang, a titan of industry. Don't let a kept man like me tell you what to do. I was practically begging her to blow up. Instead, Catherine was silent for a few seconds before saying, I understand. I'll be more careful in the future. Then she went upstairs. She would be more careful? I just stared after her, dumbfounded. That was it. She just folded? This wasn't in the script. Alfred materialized at my side. Sir, I still think a gift would be wise. For the madam to not get angry today, it is quite strange. Even the butler knew something was off. I started to panic. This hero was completely useless. Even after all this, Catherine wasn't asking for a divorce. Could she? Could she still have some lingering feelings for me? The thought terrified me. No, absolutely not. If she got sentimental, I'd be trapped. I was the disposable side character, destined for a bad end if I didn't get out of this marriage. I was done for. The hero, Nick Thorne, was a ruthless shark who could make Wall Street tremble just by clearing his throat. If I ended up on his bad side for real, I'd be fish food. The more I thought about it, the more I knew I had to act. I stormed upstairs after her. Wait, sir, Alfred called, rushing after me with a glass of milk on a tray. I snatched the glass and went up. Catherine was already in her silk pajamas, sitting at her vanity, staring into space. When she saw me, her brow furrowed. What is it? Nothing. Just drink some milk. I placed it on the table. She frowned, leaned in to smell it, and then violently swept the glass to the floor. It shattered with a sharp crack. I jumped back. What the hell is wrong with you, Leo? She snarled, her eyes blazing. I was wondering why you'd suddenly changed. So this was your plan all along. My heart skipped a beat. Had she figured me out? What? What are you talking about? You dare try to drug me. She grabbed me by the collar, slamming me against the wall. Her grip was surprisingly strong. I'm warning you. Try another one of your pathetic low-life tricks, and I will destroy you. Now get out. I was stunned. Looking at the shattered glass on the floor, it hit me. Alfred, oh Alfred, you magnificent idiot. Is there a butler in every story who's a secret agent of chaos? He was probably just worried about losing his job, but he nearly got me killed. Staring into Catherine's disgusted eyes, I leaned limply against the wall. Then a new thought bloomed. This was perfect. If she thought I was the kind of scumbag who would resort to drugging her, then I just had to lean into it. A smile touched my lips. I pushed off the wall and walked out of her room without another word. Back in my own suite, I racked my brain for the next move. Finally, I had it. I pulled out my phone and posted a new Instagram story, a picture of my shoes next to the shattered glass. Tried to do something nice and bring my wife some milk. Didn't go over well. Oh well. A few minutes later, the shrill ring of Catherine's phone pierced the silence from her room. It had to be him, Nick Thorne. Sure enough, moments later, she rushed downstairs. I peered out the window, and there he was. Nick himself had driven over, and he'd brought gifts. The entire trunk of his sports car was filled with a forest of fragrant white Casablanca lilies. Even from the penthouse, I could smell them. Then he pulled a small box from his pocket, revealing a sapphire necklace so brilliant it glittered in the street lights. My eyes narrowed. I recognized the Heart of the Atlantic, a piece he personally designed in the original novel. Rich people, man, they really were on another level. I was getting impatient. When I saw them embrace, I decided to pour some gasoline on the fire. I opened the window and cleared my throat loudly, feigning outrage. What do you two think you're doing, Catherine? They both looked up, and a dangerous glint flashed in Nick's eyes. A shiver went down my spine. Don't get me wrong, buddy, I thought desperately. I am 100% rooting for you two. Please just give me the divorce papers. But his stare was so intense I couldn't get the words out. I just gulped and pulled my head back inside. After Catherine sent him off, I cornered her as she came back upstairs. Catherine, do you want to be with him? Just say the word, and I'll step aside. My family would never approve, she said, a flicker of despair crossing her face. Understood. A merger between our two families was a union of equals, but with Nick's colossal wealth, the John Corporation wouldn't be a partner, it would be an acquisition. So just blame it on me, I said quickly. Tell them I'm tired of this life, that I'm an ungrateful jerk who wants out. She looked at me with suspicion. My heart hammered in my chest. I had to sell it. Look, I said, grabbing her hands, my voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. I knew from the day we got married that you didn't love me, and I'm not the kind of person who can live a lie. I want what you have. Real, pure love. Do you get it? Seeing you too, it's inspiring. The way you've waited for him, stayed true to him all these years. I envy that. I really do. I want to get out of this, I said, my voice thick with fake emotion, so I can find my own true love. For a second, I thought she bought my rambling nonsense. She studied my earnest expression, and then a cold, mocking laugh escaped her lips. Playing hard to get now, Leo? Is that the new strategy? She scoffed. Don't even think about it. What happens between me and Nick, she said, her voice turning steel, cold, is none of your business. She turned to go upstairs, leaving me stunned. What? Still no divorce? In a last-ditch, desperate move, I lunged forward, spun her around, and pulled her into a kiss. You're right. It is my business, I breathed against her lips, making my voice as possessive as I could. And you should know, Catherine, I'm never letting you go. Smack. Catherine's hand connected with my cheek. The sting was sharp and immediate. You're shameless, she spat, her face flushed with fury as she turned and stormed up the stairs. I sighed, rubbing my cheek. Why did rich people have to make everything so complicated? A moment later, my phone buzzed. Vance outside now. My heart leaped. He knew already. This was it. I peered out the window and saw his familiar, imposing silhouette waiting by the curb. I hurried downstairs. Nick was leaning against his car, and he didn't waste any time. He held out a cashier's check. $30 million, he said, his voice flat. For the divorce. He was really just throwing money around like it was nothing. And me? I had to play my part, though. You think you can get rid of me for a measly 30? For 30 million, I could make you disappear permanently. Nick snapped his fingers, and from the shadows, several large, grim-faced men in dark suits emerged as if on cue. The lights in the penthouse behind me went out. A dark night, a deserted street, a perfect setting for a murder. A genuine tremor of fear ran through me. Meeting the hero's icy glare, my knees went weak. Okay, time to cash out. I clutched my chest dramatically. The hero was making threats. I had to take the deal. Fine, you have a deal, I said quickly. But Catherine, she has to sign. She'll sign. I took the check. Minutes later, I was back upstairs, divorce agreement in hand. Presenting it to Catherine, I said, I'm serious about this. Once we're divorced, let's not contact each other again. Nick is waiting downstairs. You don't want him to be the other man in our marriage, do you? Seeing my resolve, she took a deep breath and handed me a bank card. This contains the funds for your shares, $1 billion. Once you sign, there's no turning back. I know, I said, my face a mask of solemnity. I wish you both the best. The hero was everything the book promised. Ruthless, decisive, brutally efficient. A different breed entirely. News of our divorce sent shockwaves through the Zhang family. The patriarch, Old Man Zhang himself, was furious and summoned me for dinner, which was really a summons for my execution. Unsurprisingly, Nick Thorne was there too. The sheer force of his presence made me want to shrink into a corner. Oh well, someone had to be the villain in this story. Catherine and I walked in together. The moment we crossed the threshold, a crystal tumbler flew through the air, aimed straight at my head. I ducked just in time as Nick instinctively stepped in front of Catherine, and the glass whizzed past his ear, shattering against the pillar behind him. I clutched my chest, my heart pounding. When the patriarch saw Nick, he choked on his rage. After a long, tense silence, he glared at me. "This is madness. Who gave you permission to divorce?" I stood up straight. "Grandfather Zhang, this is a decision I've considered carefully. This divorce has to happen. I'm tired of it. I'm bored. I want to find my true love." Nick started to move, but Catherine placed a hand on his arm, shaking her head slightly. "Grandfather," I continued, "our marriage was a business deal from the start. We're not a good match. Please don't make this harder than it has to be. Separating is the best thing for both of us. The papers are signed. The money is in my account. From now on, I won't be in your way." The entire Zhang clan was gathered, their faces cold, their eyes burning holes into me, all except for one person. Across the room, a woman with a sly smile gave me a subtle nod. I recognized her, Isabel Zhang, the family's other powerhouse daughter. I turned to leave. "Leo, I'll give you a ride," Isabel called out, rising to her feet. No one in the family stopped her. As she walked past Catherine, she gave her sister's shoulder a light pat. Then she gestured to me. "Get in." Before I could protest, she had me in her sports car, and we were tearing away from the mansion with a screech of tires. The acceleration threw me back against the seat, and I gripped the safety handle for dear life. She didn't slow down until we pulled up to a sleek members only speakeasy in Soho. She greeted the host like an old friend, and we were immediately shown to a private booth. Isabel slid onto the velvet bench and patted the seat next to her. "All right, sit down and tell me the real reason for the divorce." "What real reason?" "It's exactly what I said. I got bored." I sat and showed her the picture of the signed divorce agreement on my phone. "As you can see, they got back together. I'm out. And you're okay with that?" She threw her hands up. "Why wouldn't I be? I got paid handsomely. No complaints here." She studied my face and tone, searching for any hint of a lie. After a long moment, she finally seemed to believe me. "Are you kidding me? With this much money, I could find any woman I wanted. Why would I hang myself up on one tree, especially one that was already claimed?" Catherine was beautiful, sure, but with my new bank account, I could have a rotating cast of gorgeous women vying for my attention. Why would I get in their way? Isabel's eyebrow arched. "So what's the plan now? You know the saying, a fool and his money are soon parted. You're sitting on a huge pile of cash with no power, no connections. Even if you go back to your own family, people will be lining up to pick your pockets. So what are you saying, Izzy? You want to be my patron?" A manicured nail tapped on the polished table. "I could be. I'll be your backer. Are you interested?" This unexpected offer caught me completely off guard. The Zhang sisters were like night and day. Catherine was an elegant, untouchable lotus flower. Isabel was a poppy, vibrant, intoxicating, and dangerous. When I was married to her sister, I never dared to look at her for too long. Now, I found myself hesitating. Isabel laughed, a low, throaty sound. "Don't tell me you're scared." She gave me a challenging look, took a delicate sip of her cocktail, and her eyes held a spark that sent a shiver down my spine. "Who said I was scared? Good. Stick with me, and I'll show you what the joy of being truly wealthy is all about." She wasn't subtle, was she? I didn't know what her version of joy entailed, but I knew one thing. If I teamed up with Isabel, Catherine would probably have an aneurysm. They were fierce rivals at Zhang Corp, and if Nick Thorne found out, would I even survive? But it was too late for regrets. Isabel leaned in, her fingers gently tilting my chin up. She studied my face for a moment, then gave my jaw a playful pinch. "Not bad," she mused. "Catherine never appreciated what she had, but I see the potential. Be in my office tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock sharp. Don't be late." She patted my shoulder and slid a black credit card across the table. "Drink whatever you want. This is your last night of freedom. Starting tomorrow, I expect you to be on your A game 110%. I don't do soft." I just grunted but pocketed the card. She was certainly generous. I spent the night enjoying the club's finest whiskeys, indulging in every luxury on offer, but I didn't cross the final line. This was Isabel's turf, and I wasn't stupid enough to cause a real scene. It didn't take long for me to understand what she meant by last night of freedom. The next morning, When I arrived at her division of John Corp, I was met by her executive assistant. She looked me up and down with an amused smile. "Mr. Vance, what made you decide to become Miss Zhang's new assistant?" "I didn't. She decided for me." "Well, then," the assistant said, her smile widening, "good luck. Here's the boss's schedule for the day, and this is a dossier on the company's current projects. I suggest you memorize it. If she asks you something and you don't have an answer," she drew a finger across her throat with a KSSHD sound, the gesture sending a chill through me. Was Isabel really that terrifying? Seemed unlikely. I sat at my new desk and started poring over the files. Isabel's schedule was brutal, packed back to back. I'd never realized it before, but she worked even harder than Catherine. Catherine had Nick backing her, but Isabel was on her own. The pressure on her must be immense. Before I could even finish the first file, Isabel swept me out of my chair. I spent the rest of the day as her shadow, accompanying her in client negotiations, board meetings, watching her delicately handle tasks and dress down underlings. Her critiques were sharp, her insults creative and never repeated. It was a masterclass in evisceration. I finally understood. She wasn't just a boss, she was a smiling tiger. This woman was 10 times more dangerous than Catherine. I was already regretting my decision. Following her, I was going to end up dead, and I wouldn't even see it coming. But before I had a moment to breathe, she had me by the arm again. "Come on," she said. "You're taking a client to dinner with me." Her tone left no room for argument. A wave of regret washed over me. Isabel glanced at me. "You used to like seafood, right?" "It's not my favorite, but I don't mind it," I said. Since my awakening, I'd had the private chef make it a few times, mostly just to try everything I'd never had before. I'd learned a thing or two from him in the process. "Good," Isabel said. "Because tonight, that's your superpower. Your only job is to eat. Eat whatever you want, as much as you want. Just make sure the client is happy by the time you're done." I blinked. Was she serious? A free meal on the company card? That was an offer I couldn't refuse. I was going to eat until I was stuffed, that was for sure. We had just stepped out of the building when we ran right into Catherine and Nick. They were walking in, and Catherine's eyes narrowed when she saw me trailing behind her sister. "Leo, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice tight. "Izzy," she said, turning to her sister, "you and him. Don't get the wrong idea," Isabel said casually, draping an arm over my shoulder. "Your ex-husband, as it turns out, has his uses. His greatest talent is spending money, and I'm putting it to good use." She gave me a little squeeze. "I'm taking him to entertain a client. Anyway, Kate, that West Side development project, I've got my eye on it. So don't even think about getting in my way." Nick stepped forward, a protective arm around Catherine. "I'd advise you to give up now, Izzy. Kate is going to lock down that West Side deal, and there's nothing you can do about it." Isabel just scoffed and pulled me away. I scurried to keep up. A thought suddenly struck me. In the original novel, Isabel was a minor character, but every time she appeared, she caused some kind of trouble for the heroine. She was competent, ambitious. If it weren't for Nick's overwhelming power, this supporting character probably would have stolen the show. Isabel noticed my daze and nudged me. "What are you thinking about?" "Just you and Catherine. You've been fighting for so long. Have you ever thought about just striking out on your own?" Isabel's eyes flashed. "The John Corporation is a century-old dynasty. Our ancestors built an empire. Our generation's job is just to protect it. Why would I throw that away to start from scratch? Besides," she added with a smirk, "why would I be so foolish as to build my own kingdom just to hand it over to a competitor? Catherine will get married eventually. Whoever she ends up with, her shares in John Corp will be diluted, but not me." "You're not getting married?" I asked. She shot me a look, a wry smile playing on her lips. "I'll find a husband who marries into the family. That way, even if I get married, my shares stay firmly within the Zhang Empire. Now, you tell me, who do you think comes out on top?" I gave her a thumbs up. She was truly one of a kind. We arrived at the restaurant, a high-end seafood place. As luck would have it, the head chef was the same one I'd hired for my private feasts. After a quick hello, I slipped back to the kitchen and asked him to send out his absolute best stuff. The client was intrigued when he saw me chatting familiarly with the chef. We hit it off immediately, bonding over our love for perfectly prepared seafood. Isabel hadn't expected me to actually be useful. The dinner was a triple win. I ate like a king, the client was delighted, and Isabel was satisfied. On the way back, I patted my full stomach. You know, this actually worked out. If you ever have another job like this, you know who to call. Don't worry, I will, she said. But you're not just my professional food taster. I need you to get up to speed on the business fast. I'm gonna need your help, really. You mean with the West Side Project? I looked at her. If you go head to head with them on that, you don't have much of a chance. With Nick backing her, you can't win. Isabel just smiled. The West Side Project is interesting, and that's where you come in. I frowned. I knew my own limitations. Isabel would be better off hiring a team of experts than waiting for me to suddenly develop business acumen. This woman putting so much faith in one man was a mistake. When we arrived at her stunning brownstone, she turned to me. Come on up for a bit. No, that's okay. I'm an outsider. It wouldn't be appropriate. I don't see you as an outsider, Isabel said, her voice serious. I froze. Not an outsider? Did she mean she saw me as an insider? My mind flashed to what she'd said about finding a husband to marry into the family. Was she planning to use the casting couch on me? I may have been a trophy husband, but I was now a billionaire in my own right. I will not be compromised. As these thoughts raced through my head, Isabel flicked my forehead. Get your mind out of the gutter. The gutter. Now go home and get back to work on the files. If you screw something up, I'm docking your pay. I spent the next few weeks as Isabel's shadow, swept up in the whirlwind of her work life. The woman was a force of nature, constantly in motion. In contrast, Catherine, after getting together with Nick, had become half of a power couple. They were officially announced, and a wedding date was set. But Catherine didn't seem happy. Whenever I saw her at the office, she looked sullen and withdrawn. One evening, I came home to my new villa, part of the divorce settlement, to find Catherine waiting at my front door. I was surprised to say the least. I lived alone now, with only a cat for company. As I let us in, a little tabby I'd found on the street rubbed against my leg, then looked up at Catherine and meowed. She recoiled with a frown. You have a cat. I'd forgotten when we lived together she hated cats. If I ever petted one outside, she'd make me sanitize myself before coming near her. Now that I was single again, I enjoyed the simple comfort of having a pet to greet me after a long day. I nodded, stooping to scratch the tabby behind the ears before getting her a can of food. Yeah, I have a cat. What's up? I washed my hands and made her a cup of coffee. As I set it down, I quickly added, Don't worry, I didn't put anything in it. That's not what I was thinking, she said quietly. Now that I'm actually with him, I feel like I can't breathe. I nodded sympathetically. The domineering CEO and the ruthless tycoon. Their dynamic came with a certain suffocating pressure. In their relationship, the heroine's role was to be the damsel, the delicate flower. It wasn't a partnership of equals, and a strong woman like Catherine was bound to feel stifled. It was just a phase, though. In a novel, they lived happily ever after, although the book conveniently skipped over the messy reality of married life. Seeing her like this, I couldn't help but smile faintly. Isn't that just how it is? But it wasn't like that with you, Leo. Why was it so different? I come home, and you'd just be lounging on the sofa, completely at ease. You never questioned me. As long as I gave you money, you were content. What's the difference? It was the pinnacle of a slacker's life, a concept a workaholic like her would never grasp. No responsibilities, no pressure. Of course I was relaxing on the sofa. Catherine sighed. But now it's different. I buy him gifts, expensive or not, and he just gives a faint smile. He accepts them politely, but never uses them. He buys me incredibly expensive things, but they're not what I want. The classic problems of the ultra-rich. If someone wanted to throw millions of dollars worth of gifts at me, I wouldn't care what they were. I'd take them with a smile. Only someone like Catherine would find something to be miserable about in that situation. So what do you want? I asked. I want him to spend more time with me. She caught herself, and a mask of the cool CEO snapped back into place. About the West Side Project, I'm gonna win it. Tell my sister to back off. If this continues, I'm worried it's gonna end badly for both of us. I shrugged helplessly. I tried to tell her, but it's no use. But you. Before I could finish, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. It was Nick. Her face darkened as she answered. I'm just at Leo's place, catching up. What did you think I was? I know. I'll be back soon. She hung up and stood to leave. At the door, she paused and looked back at me. Leo, she said softly, sometimes I really envy you. I didn't say anything as I watched her walk away. I took a picture of her retreating back and sent it to Nick. Hey Nick, your fiancée just stopped by to complain that you don't spend enough time with her. You're one of the richest men in the world. Try putting in a little effort, man. A reply came back almost instantly. Don't let me see you two alone together again. This guy was unbelievable. What did I do to deserve this? That was it. I couldn't stay in this villa anymore. I called a real estate agent and put the place on the market. When Isabel found out, she was intrigued. You're selling your house? Don't tell me you're planning to live at the office. You're not that dedicated. The company had corporate apartments, but the thought of living in a dorm, like setting with a dozen other people, was unbearable. If you're not opposed, Isabel said, extending an olive branch, and you're worried about him finding you, you could always move in with me. She saw my expression and added, if we're living together, Nick won't suspect anything, and he'll stop harassing you. What do you think? Best of all, no rent. A jolt went through me. Are you trying to make me your live and husband? Isabel rolled her eyes. The Zhang family doesn't step in the same river twice. You're overthinking it. Her blunt dismissal shattered my ridiculous fantasy, and she had a point. Me getting divorced from Catherine only to immediately move in with Isabel. The optics were terrible. Besides, I had my own money. Buying a new place was easy. I called an agent and bought a sprawling apartment in a high-security high-rise. Key card access only, no uninvited guests. That meant no Catherine either. After my last encounter with her, Catherine seemed to get the message and left me alone. Soon, it was time for the bidding on the West Side development project. As expected, Isabel lost. Nick stood with his arm around Catherine, a rare triumphant smirk on his face. It was so out of character, I almost thought he'd been replaced by an imposter. But Isabel, contrary to my expectations, wasn't angry at all. She was completely composed. Without a word, she turned and walked away. I hurried after her. Izzy, don't let it get to you. It's not worth getting upset over. Hurry up, she said, her voice brisk. We need to go sign the contract. Her words threw me for a loop. Sign a contract? What contract? Isabel led me to a different wing of the office building. When I saw Mr. Shun from Sterling Global waiting for us, it all clicked into place. This was a bait and switch. Isabel's smile was unapologetic. Of course that piece of land is a money pit. Whoever gets it is going to lose a fortune. The contract I just signed, however, is worth $10 billion. This deal cements my position at Zhang Corporation. Who can compete with me now? You stole Nick Thorne's deal? This was the international partnership Nick had been chasing for months. Before I could finish, the sound of angry footsteps echoed down the hallway. Nick appeared, his face red with rage. Isabel Zhang, you conniving snake. You think you can get away with this? Been delayed because he came back to the States for Catherine, and in that time, Isabel had swooped in and snatched it from under his nose. Isabel shrugged. I wouldn't call it stealing. It's called being better at the game. It was all going to benefit the Zhang family one way or another. Better that I'm the one to bring it home than him, don't you think? I was speechless, and it dawned on me. You used me. You deliberately used me as a smokescreen, didn't you? Isabel patted my cheek. What else? She said. After signing the papers, she poured 2 glasses of red wine and handed one to me. You know, you're actually a pretty good partner, Leo. You're adaptable, enthusiastic, and you go with the flow. Most importantly, she added, her eyes twinkling, you're incorruptible. I threw money, power, and even myself at you, and you didn't take the bait. It's truly remarkable. I hereby declare you my official partner in crime, Leo Vance. Wow. Thanks, I said, rolling my eyes. I finally understood the game she'd been playing all along. The money, the credit card, the offer to move in. It was all a test and an elaborate performance for Nick's benefit. What she didn't know was that I already had enough money to retire and live a life of blissful laziness forever. The news of Isabel's deal hit Zhang Corp like a bombshell. By the time Nick found out, it was far too late. He stormed into the headquarters, his face a mask of thunder. The moment he saw Catherine, he reined in his fury, but he was still simmering. Where is Isabel? She's in a board meeting, Catherine said, rushing to meet him, trying to soothe his anger. I, on the other hand, greeted him with a cheerful grin. Hey there, big shot. Long time no see. You're asking for it, he growled. I feigned fear. Now, is that any way to talk? This is business. It was a fair competition. You won the girl, we won the deal. Isn't that what they call a win-win? Why so hostile? I leaned in. Besides, you have Catherine now. What more could you want? Are you really that upset that the John Corporation made a profitable deal? My words pinned him down. He stood there, fists clenched, speechless. Catherine looked at him. He has a point, doesn't he? You're taking his side. Nick's voice was incredulous. Catherine took a deep breath. That's not what I mean. We got the West Side land. We can present it to my father as a wedding gift. He's already agreed. What are you still unhappy about? Nick looked like he was about to have a stroke. The West Side land was peanuts compared to Sterling Global's international market. That was the real prize. And now Isabel had swallowed it whole, with me standing right beside her as the lauded hero of the hour. Seeing the utterly defeated look on Nick's face, I couldn't help but let out a snicker. He shot me a look that could kill. I immediately held up my hands in surrender. All right. You two lovebirds should go talk this out in a conference room. The new chairwoman will be out any minute. That's right. Because of this massive deal, Isabel had been promoted. She was now the largest single shareholder and the newly appointed chairwoman of the board for John Corporation. She held all the cards. Not even Catherine could touch her now. Because of this, Catherine and Isabel actually had a long heart-to-heart talk. With her silver-tongued persuasion, Isabel managed to convince her sister to stand down. Catherine officially gave up her corporate ambitions, content to retreat into the role of a domestic goddess, Nick Thorne's loving wife. I had to admire her for it. As for me, I stayed by Isabel's side, throwing myself into learning the ropes of running a global corporation. I even invested a small chunk of my own fortune back into the company. To keep me happy, Isabel gave me a ridiculously generous stake in return. Now my days were a blur of activity. One day I was playing golf with investors, the next I was at a client dinner. She buried me in work, but whenever I was about to explode from the pressure, she'd smooth things over with an extravagant gift. Before long, rumors started swirling around the office that I had become Chairwoman John's boy toy. Her boy toy? I was speechless. On second thought, it wasn't so bad. It was all for the sake of making money. I was getting richer, and I hadn't really lost anything. Besides, Isabel treated me well. We were a good team, and there was no way I was leaving. Honestly, I was no match for her anyway. 3 years later, Catherine and Nick's child was born. I accompanied Isabel to the baby's christening. When she appeared at my side in a stunning fire-engine red dress, my heart skipped a beat. Oh no, I think I'm in love. But she's a ruthless corporate titan. I could never win that game. What was I supposed to do? As if reading my mind, Isabel flashed me a devastatingly charming smile and tucked her arm into mine. Feeling a little envious, she murmured, her voice a low purr. Your ex-wife has a baby, and you're... Well, a pity about those rumors, darling. Everyone's saying the reason she divorced you was because you couldn't perform. Now she has a child, and you're still all alone. TSK. Hey, who is slandering my name? Catherine and I never even slept together. How were we supposed to have a kid? Isabel leaned closer, her lips brushing my ear. Want to prove them wrong. How do I do that? I asked before I could think. Isabel's eyes twinkled with mischief. It's just having a baby. What's so hard about that? She looked me up and down. I could do it. I was floored. Isabel wanted to have a baby with me? My mind, ever the pragmatist, immediately jumped to the most important question. Okay, but how will we calculate the shares? Isabel, you can't go back on your word on this. Another opportunity to make a fortune had just landed in my lap, and there was no way I was going to miss it.